Singapore Airlines, based at Singapore Changi Airport, is the flag carrier of the Republic of Singapore, ranking amongst the top 15 air carriers worldwide in terms of scale of revenue per passengers per kilometers, and 10th in the world for the volume of international passengers carried. Singapore Airlines is one of the largest airline businesses in Asia. However, in the 90s, Singapore Airlines Flight 117 was hijacked in flight by 4 Pakistani terrorists. This was the first and only hijacking involving a Singapore Airlines aircraft. Does a small country have the resources to save those passengers on that fateful night? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Operation Thunderbolt. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something different, which is the only Singapore Airlines plane that has been hijacked in history. So the other day I was just googling about airplane crashes in Singapore, and I realized I don't think there is any. I might be wrong, but yeah, anyways, totally unrelated but interesting regardless. Singapore Airlines Flight SQ117 was a 50-minute long shuttle service between Subang International Airport in Kuala Lumpur and Changi Airport in Singapore. The plane was carrying 114 passengers and 11 crew members, which included 55 Malaysians, 21 Singaporeans, 12 Japanese, 4 Britons, and others from United States, Canada, and France.
We didn't notice anybody that's suspicious or anything that requires our attention.
The flight's pilot was Captain Stanley Lim, while the chief steward was Philip Chong. On 26th of March 1991, SQ117 took off from Subang International Airport in Kuala Lumpur at around 9:38 p.m. Somewhere on board, however, 4 men was actually planning their first hijack.
Out of the corner of my eyes, I saw 2 pairs of passengers. 2 of them went to the left toilet at the back, and then the other pair went to the right hand side toilet.
At around 9:50 p.m., only 12 minutes after the plane took off, 4 hijackers, Shahid Hussein Sumro, Bida Muhammad Khan, Javad Arkar Kiani, and Muhammad Yusof Mughal took control of the plane's cabin.
Don't move. Stay where you are. This is hijack! This is hijack! Stay where you are!
We were shocked, astonished, and we were staring at one another. And then my girlfriend across the aisle was doing this.
I just give them a smile and say, "So would you like to go back to your seat?" They were furious. The next moment I realized there were punches kicked on me that I landed at the back of the aircraft where the rubbish bin was.
Sahid, the leader of the force, shouted that they were hijacking the plane and instructed the passengers to keep calm and remain in their seats. They were actually unmasked, and they had sparklers, secret lighters, and knives. These guys weren't playing games. They carried in their hands things that looked like huge firecrackers, 8 inches long by 3 inches, and knives 6 inches long. So after taking control of the cabin, the leader, Shahid, communicated with the pilot, Captain Stanley Lim, and threatened to blow up the plane if it landed in Singapore. Stanley then informed the leader that the flight just didn't have enough fuel to go all the way to Sydney, and it had to be refilled in Singapore. So Shahid eventually agreed. Shahid also promised to release passengers at Changi Airport as long as they followed their instructions. At 10:24 p.m, the plane landed on runway 1 of Changi Airport. Shahid ordered Captain Stanley to stop the plane on the runway and ensured that no one dared to approach. He would then communicate his demands to Stanley, who relayed them to the authorities. Shahid demanded to speak to the Pakistani ambassador as well as former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. He wanted a release of a number of people who was jailed in Pakistan, and that included the husband of the former Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto. He then wanted the plane to simply be refilled and just flown to Sydney. By 10:30 p.m, just 6 minutes after landing, police officers, including crack troopers from the police tactical team, had surrounded the plane. The Singapore government activated a crisis management team called the Executive Group, consisting of representatives from the Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Home Affairs, and other related organisations. Hostage negotiators were also alerted. Captain Stanley Lim would relay messages between the police negotiators who attempted to persuade the hijackers to release the hostages by using his headset. 4 hijackers would force passengers from the first class and the business class section to move to the economy class section.
Went from first class to economy class. I passed through the little door with the curtain that was opened, and one of the hijacker kicked me in the butt to make sure I was going fast enough.
So upon learning that the hijackers were actually Pakistanis, the team actually decided to carry out negotiations using English, hoping to slow down the pace of communications. I'm pretty sure this would help them to buy time in order to save the plane. I don't know. That's why I assume. So at 12:20 p.m., Flight Steward Bernard Tan was beaten up by the hijackers and thrown out of the plane, falling 4.5 meters to the tarmac. Bernard then provided the police with information about the hijackers and their weapons, and then he was sent to Singapore General Hospital. Around midnight, the hijackers splashed the cockpit and the control panel of the plane with alcohol, seized from the first class cabin, and then threatened to set the plane on fire. They also physically assaulted the captain and an American passenger on the plane. Passengers said that the hijackers threatened to make an American their first victim and set the plane on fire. One of the hijackers actually held a knife to an American and told the American that he'll be the first one to be killed. They seemed to be against Americans and blaming America for the problems in their country. At 2:30 a.m., the hijackers lit up some newspapers on the cockpit floor and threatened to set the plane on fire again. The hostage negotiators agreed to refuel the plane and the hijackers put out the fire. At 2:40 a.m., the plane was moved to the outer tarmac of the airport. At 3:25 a.m., the Singapore government released a detailed statement about the hijackers' demands. The first load of petrol was delivered at about 3:30 a.m. and around that time, Chief Steward Philip Chong was beaten up and pushed out of the plane. He provided the police with more information about the hijackers. Negotiations actually went back and forth for a while, and then at 6:45 a.m. is when the hijackers informed the negotiating team that they were no longer interested in communicating. I guess they realized that they couldn't get what they want, and they probably found out that the team is just buying time. The hijackers then issued a 5-minute deadline and threatened to kill one hostage every 10 minutes if their demands were not met. They began a countdown. This was when the negotiating team and the executive group decided to mount a rescue operation to save the hostages. During the time when the negotiations with the hijackers were taking place, a team of SAF commandos was rehearsing a storming operation in a similar Airbus plane. At 6:47 a.m., the commando team received the order to storm the plane. They used ladders specially made for the Airbus A310. 6 SOF teams scaled the plane. The officers forced open the plane doors using explosive charges. They tossed the stun grenades into the cabin and entered. 2 hijackers in the cockpit were swiftly shot. The third one was brought down in business class. The final hijacker was shot at close range.
Captain Stanley was sharing with me his experiences inside the cockpit. He said the guys came in and then they fired the shots at the hijackers. He would remember that Shahid has 5 or 6 shots through the chest. And he was so determined that he stood up again.
Operation Thunderbolt was over in 30 seconds. The hijackers had no game. I don't know, wow. And luckily, none of the hostages were harmed. I actually managed to find an article about a steward's experience firsthand. So if you guys are interested in reading about it, which I think was quite interesting, I will link it down in my description below. I really wonder though, how were they expecting to get away with this in Sydney? Would it have made a difference if they flew to Sydney and escaped? I don't know. That's all for today, and thank you for watching my videos. See you in the next one. Bye bye. Whoa, backlight. Am I glowing?